Hello and welcome to my reading vlog for The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. I started this last night. I've only read the prologue, so I'm not even on page 1 yet because there are Roman numerals for these pages. So I'm on Roman numeral 28, so just the prologue. And as always with a prologue, I don't really fully understand the significance, although I should probably mention early on this is going to be a spoilery video, so if you haven't read this book then don't watch this video. If you have read this book then feel free to stick around. If you've read the whole series, this is my first time reading it, so please don't spoil me in the comments. I will be very angry with you. So I had various predictions at the end of the last, or at the end of the first book I should say, and my kind of main thing was that clearly Rand had not killed the Dark One or whatever his name is, because otherwise what would be the point of the whole series? And that is already cleared up in the prologue. Clearly he's not dead, and he's kind of rallying his forces to track down Rand and Matt and other one whose name is currently escaping me, because he wants to turn them to his side, because Rand is the chosen one, as it were, and he is or will be the Dragon Reborn, and so the Dark One wants to have him on his side. So I totally saw that coming. I don't really know much about where this one is going to go, but I am starting it now, or have started it already actually, and sorry about my beeping washing machine in the background, but I will come back to you once I have made some progress. Right then, so it has been a couple of days and I've read a good chunk of this now, so I'm on page 164, so I'm not kind of, you know, massively far into it, but it's enough of a chunk for me to have a feel for how this one is going. So firstly, one of my things that I said to myself, because I was keeping it spoiler free for the first vlog, was the vlog for book 1 I mean, was that I wasn't really trusting Moraine. I felt like there was a lot more going on with her character, and it was kind of implied in book 1 that she knew that Rand would be able to access the One Power, and it's now been kind of confirmed that she did know that at the point that she met him, and or knew that it was going to at least be one of the three, but suspected that it would be him, and that she probably knew that, or definitely knew that, for a long time beforehand because of a prophecy that was made at the time that Rand was actually born. And so Rand is starting to now piece together that prophecy and the things that his father Tam was saying whilst he was in his kind of state after the attack of the, what are they called? Trollocs at Emond's Field at the beginning of book 1. I feel like the start of this book, although it doesn't totally feel like a new series, you still kind of get that feeling of starting a new series in terms of like getting grounded in the world, because this is such an epic that we're still being introduced to a lot of things. In particular, we're now being introduced more so to the Sedai, the Aes Sedai, and their kind of different ranks, I guess, if you want to call them that, of Aes Sedai and how they work. And so I understand now that the Reds are basically out there trying to gentle all of the men using the One Folk, but there is now this confirmed prophecy that Rand is the Dragon Reborn, and you know, he's the whole kind of reluctant hero trope all bundled up into kind of one person. But I'm glad to see that he isn't going to do what I was worried about him doing at the end of book 1, which is that he's not going to go off on his own. But I didn't see the horn going missing coming, although I should have, from the title of the book being the Great Hunt being the hunt for the horn, and they'd already found it, so it kind of makes sense. So now Matt, Perrin and Rand are going off to hunt the horn and also the dagger that's been stolen from Matt. So I feel like I'm finally grounded in what this book is going to be about, which is good, because there was kind of a period of about 50 to 75 pages there where I was just a little bit lost and confused, but now that we're starting to get going again, I feel a bit better. So I've still got 500-ish pages of this left to read. I'm about 25% of the way through, I think, according to the audiobook, but it is Friday now, so I'm going to crack on and get some good reading in this evening, and over the course of the weekend, hopefully, I'll be able to finish this one. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully that will be possible, but so far so good. I'm feeling better about this one now that I've kind of hit the, I think probably once I hit the about 100 page mark, things started to click together again, so I'm glad that I've got past that point. And I'll be interested to see if the same things happen in the subsequent books, because this one is slightly different in feel, I guess, to the first book, which is what I've heard. So I wonder if this kind of pattern continues in future books, or whether it's just this one and then it kind of is more, kind of dives right into the story again. So I guess we'll see when I get to those. But for now, I'm going to carry on reading this one, and I will update you once I'm a little bit further through. I am further in now. I'm about 250 pages in, but I have a few things I want to discuss. So firstly, I feel like there isn't enough of a difference between the authorial voice that Robert Jordan uses when he's switching between characters, because I can't always immediately tell, especially when I'm just listening to the audiobook, that we've had a perspective change. And even once I have figured out that we've had a perspective change, I don't always know whose perspective we're in. Now, it's easier when we swap to a female perspective because Kate Redding narrates those, so it's obvious straight away that, okay, we're in a female perspective, but I don't necessarily know whether it's Egwene or Nynaeve or Moraine that we're in the head of, even then. So that's a critique that I have, I guess. But the main thing I wanted to talk to you about is a thing that I have noticed since chapter 13. So I'm going to read you just a couple of passages, okay? So this is Loyal speaking. Neither do I, Rand. Most of it sounded like this. If a woman go left or right, does time's flow divide? Does the wheel then weave two patterns, 1,000 for each of her turnings, as many as the stars? Is one real, the others merely shadows and reflections? You see, it was not very clear, mainly questions, most of which seemed to contradict each other, and there just wasn't much of it. And then there's a little kind of descriptive passage, and then there are supposed to be a good many of these stones scattered all over the world, or there were once, but I never heard of anyone finding one. I never heard of anyone finding anything like this at all. And then, so that's in chapter 13, and then in chapter 16, we come across a monument that was described to them when they were with Ingtar's group. And it says, "But how?" Rand said. "Arthur Hawkwing won a victory over the Trollocs here. Ingtar said so." "Not here," Loyal said slowly. "Obviously not here. From stone to stone run the lines of if, between the worlds that might be. I've been thinking on it, and I believe I know what the worlds that might be maybe I do. Our world might have been if things had happened differently. Maybe that's why it is all so washed out looking, because it's an if, a maybe, just a shadow of the real world. In this world, I think the Trollocs won. Maybe that's why we have not seen any villages or people. So clearly we're dealing with multiverse theory here, and I wasn't expecting that in this fantasy story. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there more as a memory for myself. I don't think I'm going to forget, because it's already come up a couple of times, so I think that this discussion is going to continue. But clearly Rand has stumbled into a multiverse somehow. So the one power, he's used it in his sleep, and he's transported himself, Loyal, and what's the other guy's name? Hurin, something like that. Hurin, yeah. Into a multiverse where, as Loyal has just described, it's a world where the Trollocs won, not Arthur Hawkwing. So I'm really interested to see where that's going to go, because I really was not expecting that in here. So that's really interesting. As I said, I'm about 250-ish pages in. I'm just here. So I'm going to sit down and do a good chunk of reading. Now, as I said, I would like, ideally, to finish this book this weekend, if at all possible. Right then, I am in the home stretch of this book. Now I'm on page 580, so just under 100 pages left. Yeah, 100 pages left, almost exactly. 101 to be precise, on chapter 41. And a lot has happened in this book. We just spent a little bit of time with Egwene and Nynaeve, and I wasn't really interested in being away from Rand and the others, but then Liandrin, who I didn't like anyway, has just been a complete bitch. So that's good. And now we're back with, or we're about to be back with Rand again in this particular chapter. And I feel like this kind of last 100-ish pages has felt a little bit slow, but then I'm just also feeling a bit sluggish today, so it might just be that. But I am going to go ahead and finish up this one now, and we'll be back with my final thoughts, hopefully pretty soon. Okay, so I just finished and I liked it. I still don't think it's like a favourite or anything, but I did enjoy it, and I especially enjoyed kind of the end scene. I like that Rand is kind of starting to accept that, although he might not like it, he is the dragon, and he's kind of going to have to accept that, which, I mean, I could have predicted that because the name of the next book is The Dragon Reborn, so clearly he's kind of going with it now. But I enjoyed that, and I liked the way that the women saved themselves and they didn't wait for the men to save them. That was kind of nice. I mean, there's still a little bit of women being this kind of personification of male fantasy, but I mean, I suppose it's not entirely surprising given when this was written, and I don't think it's as bad as some. So this was written in 1990, so, or published in 1990, I should say. So, you know, I mean, there's still a little bit of that, but it's not as bad as it could be, and it doesn't make me roll my eyes quite as much as I have done with some books before, although Selene is, you know, a whole other thing. But then she is clearly Langfear, who is one of the Forsaken, and so she's evil and one of the, basically on the side of the Dark One. So it's an interesting kind of juxtaposition there of her being portrayed as this just incredibly beautiful woman, but, you know, she's evil, and that always seems to be the case. Like, anytime a woman is portrayed in a story as stunningly beautiful, that must mean that she's evil, because, you know, you couldn't possibly be attractive and nice. It's always one or the other, apparently. But anyway, that's kind of getting off topic. I liked that Nynaeve and Elaine saved Egwene, and I'm really interested to see more of Min and more of... I'm hoping that's what's going to happen, is she's going to start to understand her power a little bit better. That would be nice. And presumably Rand will start to understand his better as well. I'm also not necessarily surprised, but still a little bit surprised that it was Matt who blew the horn. That's interesting, although they're all Targaryen, so I guess it kind of makes sense. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen with that, because of course now Matt is on his way to Tar Valon with the dagger, so that he can hopefully be separated from it, or whatever it is they're going to do to save him from that. So I'm definitely starting to see, more so from this book, where the story can go as the series continues, which is good. I like that. I feel like there was quite a portion at the beginning of this book in particular where I was kind of thinking, you know, where is all of this going? What is the point of all of this, other than, you know, defeating the Dark One, which is the ultimate goal, and Rand being the chosen one, the reluctant hero. Other than that, where are we going with all of this? And I'm starting to see the threads of things, like not fully yet, but then this is book 2 in a 14-book series, so you know, I've got a ways to go. But I think my favourite thing about this world so far is this multiverse theory. I find it really interesting. I'm looking forward to learning more about that. I'm looking forward to, you know, seeing how that's going to play out in the series in general, and what the significance of that is going to be, because it was mentioned a lot in this one, and I feel like, you know, you wouldn't spend that much time on it in a book as long as a series as long as this one if it wasn't relevant. So I'm interested to see where that's going to go. But that wraps up my read of book 2 in the Wheel of Time. I think that book 3 is shorter than this one, so maybe I'll find the pacing of that one a little bit better, because again, the middle of this kind of felt a little bit slow in places, but I am interested to carry on the series, which is positive, and I'm quite pleased that so far I am enjoying it enough to want to continue. So let me know if you have any theories. Make sure that you are, you know, saying spoilers and entering down a bunch of times. Please don't spoil me for the rest of the series, because this is my first read through and I'm only on book 2, so I really don't want to be spoiled, and I'm quite nervous about that, putting these videos out there, because, you know, this series has been around for a while, so a lot of people have read it already, and I really don't want to be spoiled. So don't spoil me, basically. And yeah, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. I will be back when I read book 3, and that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks, bye.